Good evening. My name is Donnie Glover, publisher of BlackUSA.News, and welcome to Town Hall. We have with us tonight Nkechi Taifa, and she's an author of Black Power. No,
That's right.
Black Power.
Black Lawyer.
Black Lawyer. Okay. And we also have Corey Pegues, author of Once a Cop. And tell me the subtitle.
The Street, the Law, Two Worlds, One Man.
Wow. I was just chewing on that, man. That's anyway. George Floyd happened, Nkechi, and now today the trial. The beginning of the trial and laying out the arguments. How do you think America is going to take this?
Well, I think America has shown over the past year how they're going to take it, because the streets totally and completely blew up. I think what's going to happen in the courtroom is going to be much different from what has happened out in the streets. The central narrative in the streets has been race. Race will probably be absent from the courtroom, as weird as that might seem. But I think it's going to go along the way in which it started. The prosecution is going about its case, seeking to prove every element beyond a reasonable doubt. And the defense is going to try to inject doubt whenever and wherever they can, if they can.
Do you think the prosecution came out swinging?
Well, I don't know if swinging is the term. I mean, when you're just starting out, particularly with prosecution, they're kind of steadily laying the groundwork for what the rest of the trial is going to uncover, what the evidence is going to show. I think they did what they were supposed to do, laying the groundwork. And the first witness that they put out there, I think she was a slam dunk.
Why?
She was a slam dunk because she basically, I think I saw this term somewhere, she basically snitched on the cops, and she's a cop herself. She's not a cop, but she's a dispatcher, okay? She's in law enforcement. She noticed something that was not quite right in terms of the timing, in terms of how long that knee was pressed against that neck. And so she went in and contacted a supervisor, a sergeant, to look into it a little bit further. That's the first time she had ever done anything along those lines. So it's not like this was something that, she was trying to put a nail in the coffin of the law enforcement officer, Chauvin. She just was doing her job and saw something out of the ordinary and sought to bring it to the attention of others. I think that's powerful.
Mr. Pegues, in your experience in law enforcement, have you ever seen the police call the police on the police?
Well, first, thank you for having me on such an esteemed panel guest. I know we're waiting for one more. In my 21 years of active service, and obviously since I've retired, I've been, a staunch activist talking about policing and, the problems in policing. I've seen everything in policing. I've seen police officers shoot police officers. I've seen everything in policing. So the George Floyd incident, what made this one just a little bit different, because I'm not surprised at anything that the police do, because of, just the sheer numbers of policing. I mean, when the grand scheme of things, they're human beings. So you will have some rogue police officers, you have some good cops, you have some crazy cops, you're going to have all of this. But this right here, this like trumped the Rodney King. The only thing I could compare it to was the Rodney King thing. And that's what, 30 years ago? Like we've seen it on our eyes. And the prosecution said that today. Said, forget about what's told to you. Forget about all of that. You saw this with your eyes. This is what we actually saw, the breath taken out of a man's body on national television, worldwide television. Forget about national. This has touched all the way to Africa, Ireland, all over the world. And so this one was a little bit different, but it's not something I was surprised at. I've seen everything in policing. Listen, I seen two cops fighting on duty at a job, at a domestic violence job, because it was the end of the tour. One didn't want to take the arrest. The other one wanted to take the arrest. And they're like, yo, I don't want to take the arrest. I don't want to take the arrest. I mean, I'm done. They had a physical fight where the people that called them for the domestic violence, they called 911 and said, "Yeah, 2 cops in my house fighting right now." So I've seen everything in policing. Trust me, I've seen it all.
I'm amazed. Nkechi, what are you thinking when you hear
Well,
this?
I'll tell you what I'm thinking. I'm asking Corey. He done seen everything in policing. I know he's seen the double standard of policing with respect to how whites are treated versus how blacks are treated. It's just so blatant. It's just so in your face. It's so disrespectful and it's so dehumanizing. And so, you know, it's going to be interesting to see just how this is going to play out, particularly right on the heels of January 6th. And we know how people were treated with kid gloves, you know, just escorted down politely down the steps of the Capitol after having bum rushed, you know, the seat of a power of the government. I think it's just going to be very interesting and very telling.
Well, I'm gonna tell you this. They're gonna try to victimize this cop Chauvin and make him seem like he was the greatest thing since Swiss cheese. And being an executive in the biggest police department in the country, I know most cops go through their whole career without even having one police shooting. This guy Chauvin had 3 police shootings, 18 years on the job. 1 person was killed. So there's nobody that looked at this guy, and I don't even know if I should say in defense of the police commissioner. He is black, the police chief there. He was only the chief maybe 6 months, but it's not like he was running LAPD, Chicago, New York City with thousands and thousands of cops. I think he had like 2,000 cops. In 6 months, you couldn't figure out, like, you know, when I take over, whatever command I took over, the first thing I wanted was the integrity officer to come sit in front of me. Give me the guys with the jackets. I need to know who got 2 to 3 or more complaints, who's been a shooting. Like, this is like policing 101. So when I found out that this guy Chauvin was the police training officer that day, immediately I went to who's in charge. And then you find it's a black guy, because like black people are always saying we need more black cops. And I'm just saying, I don't care what color the cop is. I just need good cops, because here was a black chief that allowed this guy, this rogue police officer with 18 years on the job and 3 shootings, to be the training officer that day. It didn't make any sense to me, but that happens so often in policing. You wouldn't believe how often that happens, because everyone wants to go along and get along, until you have the Eric Garner, until you have the Chauvin, until you have the Terrence Cruncher, until you have the Mike Brown. And obviously I could go down the list of 25 names, quite obvious, but policing needs to change, and it needs to change immediately. But I want to see this case. You know, somebody texted me today, a cop. He's like, "Yo, you know the drill. You know what's going to happen. Nobody's going to get charged. We've seen this before." But I just want America, all your viewers, to understand and know. And Nkechi will tell you, what we see on TV, we saw him get killed, right? But when you go in the court of law, it's not that knee on the neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. He put his knee on his neck. What was he thinking? Nkechi, you're a lawyer. You know they start breaking it down, because I look at that Sean Bell shooting in New York City, right? 44 rounds, killed. When I watch that trial, it's not 44 shots, but people say, "Oh, it's 44." It's the first shot. What was the mindset? What was you thinking? Where were you? Second shot. Who set the second shot? How far was the distance? What was your fit? So I don't even want America or the world to think like this is going to be a slam dunk. Watch the case very closely, because it only takes them to put the doubt in one person's mind.
You got it. One.
So it's not 9 minutes. Now we know 9 minutes and 29 seconds. It's going to be how that defense attorney puts his case on. Forget the prosecution. We know what the prosecution is going to have, a slam dunk case, but it's not the prosecution. It's that defense attorney. If he could sway 1 or 2 minds, it's over.
Joining us from Atlanta, we have Morocco Coleman, author of Coming Full Circle, Vietnam veteran, works with a number of veterans around the country. What sayeth you, Morocco Coleman?
Well,
it's
first,
not what you know, it's what you can prove.
Yeah, first I want to say greetings to everyone. Glad to be here. Yeah, I've been following it most of the day, and a couple of things popped up on the radar. One, it was an attorney was speaking and said that there are two charges there. I think the second and the third charges were basically the same things. And then the third one, I believe, was the manslaughter. And they were able to, I believe, introduce past charges against Floyd, and showing a history of drugs, and then to besmirch his character. I thought about something also today, and I heard a little while ago that I think that's one of the things they're doing. I was thinking like they need to bring or introduce like a MMA fighter, and to show like when you get your opponent to submit in a chokehold, and how that chokehold is all about the carotid artery being cut off and lack of oxygen getting to the brain. They're going at it. The defense looks like they're going at it from a standpoint of like, well, look, he had heart problems, and he had fentanyl in his system, and he had this and that and the other. All that's well and good. But I think they should stick to the fact that once that oxygen is cut off, I don't care whether you got a heart attack or whether you're in perfect condition, that MMA approach can show that all it takes is for the oxygen to be deprived and the brain starts slowing down, lack of oxygen. So it's going to be interesting, and hearing what Corey had to say. That's it. Yeah, just one person to be the linchpin going in a negative direction. Yeah.
So Donnie, may I?
Please.
Okay. Can you just say what the MMA is? I'm not quite sure, but I'm agreeing with everything that you're saying. I just want to get clear on just what that is. The audience as well.
Yeah, MMA fighters are like they don't have any shoes on. They have small gloves on their hands, and they fight almost like bare knuckle, except they got gloves on, and you can kick. It's almost like some karate, some judo, some Muay Thai,
cage fighting.
Yeah, and the objective is either to knock your opponent out or to get them in a certain hold where it's so much pain on like the arm or the leg, where you got them in a hold that is so debilitating to them, they'll tap you. Out. Yeah, they'll tap out and say, "Wait a minute, I submit."
I got you, because see, that's what George Floyd was trying to say. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I mean, he couldn't tap. He was saying, I can't breathe. And what the defense is going to try to do, just as you said, Morocco, is to bring up the autopsy report that say, well, he had drugs in his system. He had a heart condition. But then the prosecution will go in and say, he already had all of those things, but not one of those things in all of these years ever killed him. What killed him was that knee on his neck that cut off all the scientific words you're saying, the cardiac, whatever, from the chokehold, et cetera, et cetera. So,
carotid artery. So what people need to know, what the viewers need to understand is that's all well and good that he had diabetes, high blood pressure, all of that. Even if that was a contributing factor, if the officer contributed, let's say he died from a heart condition and Chauvin being on his neck, he's still found guilty. So as long as his actions contributed to the demise or the brutal death of Mr. Floyd, he should be found guilty unanimously.
Now they said that the family had done an independent autopsy, and that autopsy said the opposite of what the defense is saying. The ones that the family did said that he died from oxygen deprivation. So we're back to, you cut off the oxygen. it's almost like bending over and you stand up too quick and you get lightheaded and whatnot. Or as kids, we used to squat down, up and down, and then stand up and hold your nose and blow real hard and don't let any air out. And somebody stands behind you and they catch you because you started to pass out. So it's basically the same principle. I don't care how you cut it. You know, if you cut off that air going into the brain, you're going to pass out and your system is going to start shutting down. Also, let me deviate a bit. Corey, about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, I saw you on Trevor Noah's show. And I was impressed with what you had to say. So I went out and I bought your book, man. I've got it on my, and Donnie told me that you were going to be on the show. I said, that name is familiar to know the guest.
Well, I appreciate that.
In fact, I know Booby.
Thank you for the support. I really appreciate it. But you do know, reading that memo is actually relating to what's, and it's really a sad state of affairs because as Morocco tells, you know, traditionally, it's probably a 70 to 70 force around America. Obviously, we got some chocolate cities, Alabama, maybe Atlanta, you know, but when you group them all out, they tend to be overwhelmingly male white, unless you're in St. Louis. And people don't realize St. Louis has 2 unions. I can't even remember. It's 2 different. We start our own union. And I think, you know, I was in policing, but I was never part of the Blue Wall. That's the subculture with. I went 20-something years with people. They liked me. I just wanted to get a house, 2 cars, white picket fence, and take care of my family because I was once in the streets and it was very corrupt. They was just beating us up and taking our money and stuff. So I wanted to really affect change. But most people,
man, because you were like
prove actual intent. Okay, so they will go with lesser charges, which they feel is more directly provable. At first, there was no murder charges in it at all. It was elevated now to 2nd and 3rd degree murder, and I think, as Morocco earlier pointed out, there really is not any difference between, in terms of time to be received, in terms of those 2 murder charges. They're unintentional murder charges. One is a felony murder, and the other one is a reckless murder. But basically, it's the same. In Minnesota law, it's basically the same. But I'm glad they did elevate it to some type of murder. I would have liked 1st degree, but that he definitely would have he would have walked on that.
Well, Nkechi, so we do know in law enforcement, it's hard. Even if you're not a cop, 1st degree murder is very, very, very hard. It's very, very hard to prove a 1st degree murder.
Unless you're a person killing a police officer, then it's not so hard. I mean, I'm just saying.
No, listen. This is a transparent show. We call. Listen, I always call a spade a spade. It never could be a diamond. It is what it is. But it's very hard. I wonder. Well, this is what they make it seem. It's very hard to show intent for murder, and that's why even some of these mass killings, they don't even get 1st degree murder. Some of these killings that we think, you know, 1st degree murders, they don't even get 1st degree murder. But like she said, a cop murder, yeah, they're charging it.
Now, just now I saw where there was a black woman that was one of the 911 operators. And she was sitting at her at her location, and she was able to see, I guess, where like the Zoom set up here. They've got screens where they can see different traffic areas and whatnot. And she said that she was looking at the screen, and Chauvin was on Floyd's neck so long that she called in to them and says, "What's going on? It appears that my screen is frozen." And they told her, "No, the screen is not frozen." She said, "Well, something's going on there. You need to take a look at it." And so she was testifying a little while ago as to what she saw, and that was some new evidence.
Yeah, we touched on that a bit before you you came in. No, but that's fine, because what we're talking about is it rare or is it common for law enforcement to tell on other law enforcement? That's kind of the thread that we were going on back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was definitely a powerful witness for the prosecution. She was very cool. I've been in court so many times. I'm always looking at the demeanor of the person. She was just like so cool, calm, and collective on that stand. She was very believable to me, but I'm not the jury. She was very believable. I think she was really on her game. They prepared her for that testimony. And she gave some really good information out.
How important is it to prepare your witness for testimony?
Oh my God!
How important is that to a trial?
Absolutely and completely. You never want to put a witness up there cold. Never. You need to know what they're going to say, how they're going to say it. They should be prepped in mock sessions in advance. That's very critical, because then the other side is going to come and cross-examine, and someone can completely and totally unravel, even though they're telling the truth, even though they are an authentic person. But it's the pressure, and it's the stress, and it's the tricks and the traps and all like that. So yeah, it's extremely important.
So, Morocco, in your book, Coming Full Circle, and I was alluding to this earlier, one of the things that I've learned from talking with you is the trauma that soldiers go through. And so as it relates to this case, is there any possibility that you see the defense saying that Derek Chauvin had some type of trauma in his life?
The only thing that I got a glimpse of was they were saying that that the officers, one of the reasons that he stayed on his neck so long is because they were fearful, because the crowd was starting to get large, and they were afraid that the crowd was coming together against them. And so they were distracted with their attention on the crowd to make sure that they didn't get overrun or attacked by the crowd. That's the closest that I can see to any type of PTSD or any kind of trauma that they would experience. In fact, it appears to be so remote that I don't see an entree for them to even come with that. Now, of course, you get an attorney that thinks outside the box, way outside the box, and would have to come with something like that. But just off the top, I haven't seen anything that was traumatic. And then another thing too was, like, they're asking the question, why did Chauvin go and get him out of the car? Once they had him in the car and handcuffed and everything, they said, take him on to jail. They go over and take him out of the car and then bring him over, put him on the ground, and next thing got his knee on his neck.
And
well, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Let me tell you a little something about being scared of crowds and being the police. I'm the only cop that's here, right? So, and I worked in some of the most violent places in the city of New York, probably some of the most violent places in the country. I know a little bit about being afraid of a crowd. I can remember being a job one time, me and my partner Bob married, a domestic violence incident, and the guy and girl, we separating the two. Anyway, we go to lock the guy up, and the whole family jump on our back. So that's, you talk about being afraid of a crowd. No, I've had crowds jump on us and not to arrest somebody, okay? So I'm not buying this crowd that's between 8 to 10, 15 feet away because you had the other cop holding them back. It didn't look rowdy to me. It didn't look like it was a situation they should have been afraid. I didn't see no bottles being thrown at them. I didn't see no rocks being thrown at them. I'm not buying the fear factor, because the first thing cops need to know is it's a dangerous job. Mm-hmm. Degree of difficulty, you might get beat up, you might get shot, and you might not make it home to your family. This is before you even walk out the door on your first day. So I'm not buying that I'm scared. Yeah, it's their inherent scared inside of a cop. You know, every day I will put my clothes on the same way. I'm very superstitious. put my vest on, I put my jacket on, and then I would say my popcorn prayer up, God, please let me make it home to my family. And then you walk out the door. You can't go out like, am I going to make it back to this? So most cops are on 100. They're just going, every day they come to work, they put their vest on, their gun, they're going out. Not too many cops are saying, I'm scared. And they got the biggest gangs in the country. I would always tell Bloods, Crips, Nietas, MS-13s, like, breaking up a crowd, say, y'all, I'm going to show you I got the biggest gang. I call for help. I have 200 people here. You got to get on the phone. You got to go on Facebook. You got to email people. We got the biggest gang. So any cop in America, they got the biggest gang. So you got a crowd. When you get on that phone and call, you got postal police coming though. You got the local sheriff's office. You got all these other cops coming. So I'm not buying that they're scared. It's a farce. I'm not buying it. And yes, one of your members said $27 million was paid out. And watch how the defense bring that up.
So Nkechi, you had something you wanted to say. Come on, don't get run over.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say when he was talking about the fear or the non-fear factor, police didn't seem to fear on January 6th, where there was in fact intimidation, where there was in fact violence, where there was. I mean, it's just this disparity. Disparity isn't even the word. I don't even know the word for it, but it's just so in your face, in our face. It's not just. It's what? It's just us.
Yeah.
Well, Nkechi, I'm always saying all the time that in Black and Brown's community, police hunt, and in white communities, they protect and serve. I can say it. I've seen it. I've worked in all these communities. I know what they do.
Wow.
They hunt in our communities and they protect and serve everywhere else. And I challenge any police commissioner, chief, whoever they are, I could show them numerous examples. And all we got to do, like you said, sis, is go to January 6th, and then we go to July 2020 when Black Lives Matter was planning a protest, and they had National Guards, MP5 machine guns, dogs, everybody was there. And they ain't even, Black Lives Matter protesters didn't even get there yet. They wasn't even there, and it was 3,000 people waiting to greet them. We knew. Everybody knew. I mean, it's technology now. They was all over these things texting. We go on January 6th. Make sure you bring your mask. Make sure you bring your vest. I'm bringing a knife. I'm bringing this. I'm bringing bombs. So like, come on, who we fooling? And it's the same thing. Like I said, they protect and serve in their communities. And so they was like, oh, there's a bunch of white people come. We're going to let them, because, those far right, conservative white, they don't like some of the Black Congress people there. They hate Pelosi. They was. I really believe if they got to Pelosi, I promise you that woman wouldn't be living today.
Yeah,
I promise you. She wouldn't be living.
They had the gallows already erected.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah.
So is it a foregone conclusion that Derek Chauvin will walk?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm never going to say that because I want to believe in the criminal justice system. I want to believe in it. I've been a professor at 2 different colleges teaching criminal justice. I was a cop for many years. I want to believe in this system, but we'll see. But Nkechi, I tell you, it only takes, they just have to put a sliver of doubt. What I'm worried and concerned about, Donnie, if we don't get a conviction on this case, I'm worried about what's going to be happening around our country. I'm worried about cops going to be getting shot at, probably killed, kidnapped. This one here, we thought Mike Brown was bad. But this one here, this one brought a different vibe to the country like we never seen.
To the world.
Exactly. Yeah. So this one right here, if they don't get a conviction on this one, murder, with a second-degree murder, right? If they don't get discharged, and I'm talking about him facing serious time, not 5 years, not 10 years. That just got to come down. They got to come down hard. If they don't, I'm telling you, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem in America. I don't know about overseas, but America, they might burn this place down.
Yeah.
Well, let me just go on a different thread, if I may. This is one of the reasons why we need legislation passed. There's a George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. I will say this, that it is a great bill, but I consider it the floor, not the ceiling. But it does have some very important provisions within it with respect to the banning of racial profiling, banning of chokeholds,
National Registry,
registry, data collection, dealing with the issue of qualified immunity. All of those are very important things to begin the process of just reimagining what law enforcement should, in fact, be like. It should be treated in each community the same. Just as Corey said, the way it's treated in the white community should be the way it's treated in the black communities. Should not be a double standard.
But that's going to take the people, we have two important bills right now in America that can change America. One, she just said the George Floyd Act. And I think the most important bill right now is the Voting Act. Because if we can't vote, then none of this stuff matters. Right. So Joe Biden has to make a decision. Does he want to go down in American history as a fighter for equal rights, or is he going to do the same thing that everybody else did? I don't believe physically he could do another term. I mean, he can't even walk up the plane steps. So the best thing he could do is go down in history as somebody that really tried to bridge the gap. And if they have to use the filibuster, those two bills, and today he announced a $372 billion infrastructure plan. Infrastructure on the day of George Floyd's death. This is what he's talking. This is what he's pushing, infrastructure. And we got the voting rights and the George Floyd Act. These are like, yeah, we need our roads and bridges and tunnels fixed, but we need these two bills passed, and we need them passed now. And the weight of the presidency is riding on it.
Yeah. Nkechi, do you see a Donald Trump running for president again?
If it's not Donald Trump, it'll be somebody with a Donald Trump mentality. I think it's been cemented within this country. We need to realize half of this country voted one way and half of the country voted another way. And I think that the wool has finally been pulled off of folks' eyes to realize that there are a lot of unanswered questions since the time of the end of the Civil War. Some people feel that the Civil War never ended. Some people feel that folk in this country still belong on the plantation. Okay, so we need to be prepared for that, and we need to do what is necessary to ensure that certain people don't get into office. I'll just put it like that.
Mm-hmm. Nkechi, do you think the vitriol we saw with the Trumpsters climbing the Capitol, scaling the Capitol wall, wanting to lynch our legislators, what have you ever asked yourself, what makes a people so full of hate?
Can I just say white supremacy? I mean, I'm just saying, there's some issues going on in this country, okay? And most of it centers on our race. And I think folk do not want other folk to have the same rights or be as equal as they are. I think that they are fearful of losing power. And I think that is what we have seen over the past 4 years with respect to what happened in this country. They were emboldened. That whole segment was emboldened to come out of the closet, to come out from under the rug, and to put it out there front and square. And they did it in grand style, and they basically were let to do it.
I believe if black people get all the therapy in the world, it won't matter, because we have a whole demographic of racists who need therapy much more than us. We can get healed all we want, but we still living around sick, unhealed people. You laughing, Corey?
Listen, again, a spade is a spade. White America is under the impression that black people going to get in power and we're going to do the same things that they did to us. And that's what they're fearful of. But they don't understand that we're very forgiving people. We just want to sit at the table. We just want to eat with you. We're not trying to put you in those shackles or none of that. But they have this history. They have this history, and they're so afraid and scared of what their ancestors did to us that they think it's going to come back around, where we're just trying to uplift our generations that's coming behind us to be on equal footing. That's it. That's all we want. That's all
Corey is so right. He is so right. And there's not been anything in history to justify that attitude. Okay? And I hate to say it, and if there were, I mean, maybe it might have been validated, but there's nothing in history to really show that all we've been trying to do is to get that man's knee off our neck.
That's
it. They are so sick with the actions that they have taken throughout eternity almost. They're walking with so much guilt about what they have done systemically all the way up to right now. When you put your knee on a man's neck and look up at the camera and hold your position and have an expression on your face like it don't mean nothing. And so that deep-seated hatred is wrapped up in that guilt complex. And then you hear about the browning of America.
That's what
they said in the year
45.
Yeah, that blacks will have reached a certain level, and then you got the Hispanics and on and on. And so they're looking at it like, well, it's just like when Trump lost. They jumped up here in Georgia and are ridiculously changing the law where you can't even bring grandmama a bottle of water. And if you do, they're going to throw out a line and going to drop charges on both of you for a misdemeanor. But now that's how insidious it is. They lost those two, Warnock and Ossoff, and Georgia turned blue. And people are seeing the insanity in the insanity. And there's a shift change. And so they're losing that edge. And so that was part of what that was about when they invaded the Capitol. Now everybody was all woof, woof, wah, rah, rah. We're going to take over West Nancy. I took the desk over. Everybody's got on gear like they're special forces and whatnot, and never was even in the Boy Scouts. They got all the gear and the weapons and everything, and they go in there. Now they're using facial recognition, they're using film, and they're using photographs, and they're bringing charges and they're finding these people. And the vast majority of them that were talking all that trash saying now, well, listen, I only went up on the steps. I didn't go inside the building. So the mantra and the cry now is, I only went up the steps. I didn't go in the building. They said, yeah, but here's your picture inside the chambers, and you tearing this up and tearing that up. Now, all this bravado and braggadocious now is everybody's like a little puppy. Oh, I was just on the steps. So they're showing the true colors.
Yeah, they're showing the true colors, and they crying out for vegetarian diets in the prison now. And being able to get out on bail and go to Mexico. I mean, I ain't never heard stuff like that before. I mean, it's some joogie boogie.
Well, it'd be nice. I hope they all go to Mexico. Let them go, please. Send them all to Mexico. Let them go. Let them go.
No, they need to spend time in prison, just like a colleague. I'm on his defense committee, Sundiata Akoli, 54-year-old elder, nearing his 50th year in prison, former member of the Black Panther Party. I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have to do the time for the crime. Listen, they went up there, they was gangster. Don't be a little puppy now like Morocco said. Nah, yeah. Did it, but you know what it was? Uncle Trump put the battery in their back. They swore he was gonna win. He was gonna overturn this election, and Uncle Trump was gonna come and exonerate everybody. But Georgia had a different plan.
Hello.
Thank God for Georgia, sweet Georgia. Thank God.
Morocco, did I see Georgia on the news while your governor was talking about voter suppression? What happened down there?
Well, the governor signed that new voting bill and had about 5 or 6 white guys in the room with him. And it was a closed door session. And there's a young lady that is a state representative. So she goes while they're signing. There's no blacks in there. It's no advertising and everything. You would think they would rah, 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 this new bill we're signing. So it was behind closed doors. And so she went up and knocked on the door.
All she did was knock.
All she did was knock. And the state patrol says, you can't knock on the door. So she went to her inner door and knocked. And so they said, if you knock again, we're going to arrest you. So she knocked again. And so now they arrested her on, I think, 2 felony charges.
And they did more than arrest her. They dragged her through the corridor. I mean, dragged this woman. She got heels on. She's a council member, whatever, official, whatever.
Yeah, state representative. State representative.
State representative. Yeah.
But you know, now in 2 weeks, I'll be 75 years old. Back in the 60s, man, when I was in college, I was in SNCC and et cetera, et cetera. We were fighting for the same kind of things that we're fighting for today. That's what they mean when they say Jim Crow 2.0.
Morocco, somebody just said to me, Jim Eagle.
Jim Eagle?
Yeah.
Jim E. Crow.
No, Jim Eagle. Eagle, like a big bird.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not Jim Crow. It's called Jim Eagle.
Oh, yeah. I got you. Yeah.
Well, listen, I'm excited to see how this trial is going to pan out in the next few days. I'm really looking forward to the police chief getting on the stand. They're ordering the police chief who was in charge on his stand, and supposedly he's going to say that the officer, if you notice, I haven't said the officer name because I refuse to say his name. The officer that killed George Floyd violated every department rule. That's what this police chief is going to say. And he's going to take a tremendous lot of heat from the defense. I promise you, from every single white cop that works in Minnesota Police Department, from the PBA, from the whole white structure down there. But he's taking a step out on faith. Well, he don't really have no choice if they subpoena him, right, Nkechi? But they have him sitting on that stand. But he's supposed to say that everything that cop did violated his oath and his duties that day when he killed.
Has he gotten death threats?
I'm pretty sure he did. It just goes along with the job. You know that. I'm pretty sure. I got death threats all the time. So I'm pretty sure he got death, especially with a high profile case like this. This is a high profile case. I mean, history books are going to be writing about this.
Yeah. See, that's two main concerns I have. The first one is I hope that we don't have a plant on that jury. That one individual that you all talked about earlier. Mm-hmm. And the second thing that I have a big concern is, as it was also stated, this murder affected people all over the world. Mm-hmm. So you got the world watching on this. Mm-hmm. So do the powers that be recognize that world kind of fishbowl they're in, or do they care? And the concern of having somebody planted on that jury.
Well, Nkechi, go ahead, Nkechi.
No, I just was going to say, because when you're talking about the world, this isn't the first time. I mean, I'm thinking back to 1955 and the murder of Emmett Till, where his mama demanded an open casket so the world could see what white America did to her son, so they could see the horror of it. So the world's attention was there. That they didn't have the social media, of course. The world's attention was there with Rodney King, but again, we didn't have the social media. Okay, the difference between then and now is, I'm looking for my phone. I mean, it made all the difference in the world. That's all I want to say.
Yeah. And Emmett Till, as a kid at about, I think I was like 9 years old, and I opened that Jet magazine and I saw Emmett Till's body. That was the first time, you know, because going around up here in Atlanta, you're kind of in a cocoon. You know, you had a black community that was and still is strong and takes care. And so as young people growing up and whatnot, we were insulated. But when I saw that picture changed my life all the way up to today. And that was the first time that I understood racism and all of the accoutrements to go with it. Mm-hmm. And that started me on a quest of becoming involved as I evolved. You know, that's the linchpin of my life there. That was the turning point at 9 years old.
That was for me also. I just wanted to say.
Yeah.
And for me, it was in 1976. My mother made me and my little sister watch that 5-part series called Roots. Because like you said, Morocco, we was insulated just in the black community. And I see, you know, Kunta Kinte and all. I didn't know what the hell, you know, I'm looking at this black and white TV saying, yo, what the hell is going on? And then I got bust out, Brown versus Board of Ed. Well, you read the book, Morocco, so you already know. So you know, bust out, and then racism was like on me. So from a very early age, my mom instilled in me, like, you're not gonna let nobody treat you other, you know, than you're supposed to be treated, and no one is better than you. She didn't have much. We was on welfare, but she had an abundance of love and was overprotective and told me, you know, you don't let nobody disrespect you. And so from that moment on, it was like, nah, you're not gonna treat me anything less than.
We gotta sell some books here, folks. I need to sell some books. We only got a few minutes. Nkechi, sell your book. I want to hear about Black Lawyer, Black Power, Black Lawyer.
Yeah, Black Power, Black Lawyer, My Audacious Quest for Justice. It's my memoir. You can go to my website, www.blackpowerbblacklawyer.com, and it tells about my life, which is subsumed within those words.
You don't want to say much more? Why should I get the book?
Give me some time to say some more.
Sell that book. Sell the book.
Yeah, so I'll just say I came up right after the civil rights era, during what I call the Black Power era. Came at the tail end of Martin Luther King. I was more in the Malcolm X by any means necessary. And I was totally immersed in power to the people, Black studies in the classroom, all of those things. And it had a profound impact on my life. I came up through different movements, the Black Power movement, the anti-apartheid movement, the reparations movement, the movement against mass incarceration, and all of those things dictated the lawyer that I am today.
Outstanding. Where can we get the book?
It's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You can get it from Sankofa Books, AALBC, but my website tells it all, blackpowerbblacklawyer.com. All the places you can get the book is there. Thank you for allowing me to do that, Donnie.
Well, I just finished my second book, and I believe in supporting our authors out here because, hey, it's a whole, I've done a lot of things in business, but selling a book is a hustle within itself. It is not to be taken lightly. You better learn the game. You better learn, and at least you better have some friends. Morocco,
it just came out a couple of months ago, so I'm a new
really?
author.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
In the
Congratulations.
Wow. Good.
Congratulations on that one.
All right, Morocco, you next. Come on, sell your book.
All right. My book is Coming Full Circle. And the book starts off with me on a plane, and they announce over the PA system, fasten your seatbelts and we will be landing in the Republic of South Vietnam in 15 minutes. And I look out the window and say, what the heck have I gotten myself into? And so I landed in Vietnam on January 30th, 1968. Little did I know that that day was going to be more people died in the Vietnam War than any other time in that 10-year war.
Hold on. This is my turn. Corey, you know what happened? You know what day you talking about, Corey?
No.
Okay.
January 31st, 1968, 10 hours after I got to Vietnam, was the beginning of the Tet Offensive.
Yeah.
The Tet Offensive was the Lunar New Year for Asia. And so we were coming off of Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, half-stepping.
They was hung over, Corey.
Exactly. And so they are going into their new year. And for tunnels for 6 and major military.
You breaking up there, Morocco. You breaking up. But bottom line, Corey, the Tet Offensive, they had multiple attacks on all U.S. military bases in Vietnam, all at one time. And he thought he was going to chill for a minute. He had a gun in his hand by midnight.
Wow.
All right, Corey, it's your turn. Sell your book, man. Come on, sell it.
Okay, again, thanks for having me. My book is over my left shoulder. It's called Once a Cop, The Street, The Law, Two Worlds, One Man. It's about my life. It's a memoir. You know, as a young kid, I grew up poor, started getting in the streets at around the age of 13, started selling drugs from weed up to crack cocaine, worked with some of the most violent drug conglomerates in the country. The Supreme Team was ordered to kill people, shot people. I did a bunch of crazy stuff as a misguided young kid. And at age of 18, I went to the military, did 3.5 years there, and then went to the New York City Police Department after that. Steadily rose through the police department, became an executive with about 13 years on the job, ran some of the most violent precincts in the city. Along the way, I got my bachelor's, my master's, went to Columbia University, been a professor at 2 different colleges. And since I left October 18th, 1987, I haven't committed a crime over 33 or 4 years, whatever the numbers are. I lost count. I'm not counting no more. After 10 years, it was the game was over for me. So again, my book is Once a Cop. And again, the themes of my book are transformation, self-actualization. Obviously, there was change. I talk about police policies and procedure. But I want people what I really want people to know is that this young kid right here, 16 years old, in high school, with a bunch of jewelry on, a gun in my pocket, drugs, money, became one of the biggest police commanders in the country. And I always did it the right way. I never did it wrong. I didn't cheat anybody. The day when I left, October 18th, 1987, I left the streets. I left selling drugs. I left committing crime, and I went to change my life. And I just want these kids to know, for the viewers, if you have young men and young women in your lives that's on the path to destruction, please have them read my book. I'm not going to make money off the book, big money. Simon & Schuster gave me a nice advance. They're going to get all the money. I'm good with the money, but it's more about spreading the message, because the more people know, the better. I'm on my second book right now. I got a
That's
book.
what I want to hear. That's what I want to hear. I was thinking that. What's the
Well,
second
I made myself a superhero. It's called Who Wants to Be a Superhero? And I have like all of this stuff going. This is my logo. You know, my name is Corey Pegues. I got a cape. I got superhero powers with little discs that we throw. And I'm doing it. It's a collaboration with Lisa Goodson. She's a New York City school principal. She's a prolific child writer, and it's under Mocha Media. It's going to be a really good book. Mocha Media is getting ready to drop their first book by a big time celebrity who we all know. And so I'm excited. Supposedly in the third quarter next year, it'll be dropping. But more importantly, I got a movie out called A Cops and Robbers Story that'll be hitting theatrical theaters hopefully by like the third quarter, but the pandemic kind of messed us up. And if you want to know a little bit more about me, just go to my website, CoreyPegues.com, and you can find the book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all that good stuff. And last thing, Guardian. If you go to theguardian.com and type in "cops and robbers" or my name, you see a 23-minute snippet of my pending movie that's coming out called "A Cops and Robbers Story."
You've been holding out on us, man. You've been holding out, Mr. Pegues. You've been holding out.
I can't remember all this stuff, but my publicist is always telling me, "Oh, you gotta say this, you gotta say that." I'm focused on George Floyd. Forget about Corey Pegues. I'm here to talk. I'm here to breathe. I can breathe. It's more about George Floyd. It's more about his family. We could plug some books, fine. That's cool. But what the message is that policing needs to change. It needs to be an atomic bomb in the criminal justice system. Policing is the most important because it's the gatekeepers of the criminal justice system, meaning the cops start the process. So forget about the courts. If the cop don't put the braces on a person, the young boy, the young girl, they never get to see the judge. So we have to fix policing before we can fix anything else.
Agreed.
Morocco, you wanted to say anything? I know you tuned out for a second.
Yeah. So my book is the first part of the book, first third of the book is about my experiences in Vietnam, and I take you on missions and I let you see what happened to uncle, brother, cousin, what that Vietnam thing was. Then I bring it back home to Atlanta and I go on with life. And then I started going through some things, PTSD and other things that I had no idea that was happening to me. And I ended up in the VA hospital for 10 months, dying. They gave me 2 days to live. I survived that. Then I ended up homeless for 2.5 years. And I was written off. And then I went through a spiritual metamorphosis. As it turned out, I ended up becoming the assistant director for the state of Georgia for the Office of Veterans Programs. And then I testified before the House Subcommittee on Oversights and Investigations in DC. And after that, I was appointed to the Congressional Black Caucus Veterans Brain Trust as National Chairman for Black Veterans Employment and Training. So what I do is I take all my experiences, the good, bad, and the indifferent, and I use that. I've been retired 21 years, but I still help veterans and their families to get them their benefits, get them everything that they're entitled to. And so I get calls 2 or 3 times a day from all around the country, word of mouth kind of thing. So it's a labor of love. And
what's the contact information, Morocco? Because we got to go, big brother.
All right, Morocco Coleman at bellsouth.net. The title of my book is Coming Full Circle. And Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, or my publisher at Book Logics, BOOKLOGIX, Book Logics.
Logics. I love it.
This has been a beautiful evening. Thank you, everyone. We had a lot of comments, a lot of people tuned in. Nkechi, you in DC?
I sure am.
Corey up in Strong Island?
Yes, New York, baby.
Nkechi, you
Morocco down there in the ATL. I got to come down there to see you, Morocco.
Come on down. You got history here because you're in Morehouse. Nkechi, you're from DC?
I am a native Washingtonian. Absolutely.
Okay.
Ain't not many of us.
My favorite city.
I'm always down there. We got it. Hey, Donnie, hook us up because I'm always down there. We got to do sip some tea or something. When I come down, come down to teach you.
So my good buddy is Ron Hampton, Officer Ron Hampton. You know Ron?
Come on, that's the big bro right there. We do a lot of work together. We do a lot of work together.
Sonia Pruitt.
Come on.
I know some folks.
Yeah, you know some folks. Those are my folks. Yeah. Yeah,
I knew your name too, Corey Pegues. Yeah, I'm gonna get both of y'all's books. Donnie, thank you for putting us together with this because I think I made some new friends.
Yes. And somebody put a plug in. Nkechi, you about to get me in trouble. Corey, she about to get me in trouble. We just meeting. Nkechi, you better put a plug in for the lady that made this happen.
Oh, Pam! I just met her today. Pam Perry. I just met her. Yeah.
Pam Perry, the bar. Hey, Corey, you gotta meet Pam Perry. Yes,
I am so blessed.
Much love, Pam. Thank you, everybody, and good night to you.
Who's calling me? Morocco, what you say?
Yeah. Part of my book, I had my great aunts that lived in D.C., so I would come there every year since I was a kid all the way up to when I was in the military. So I know a little bit about East Capitol, Benning Road, and the shrimp boat.
All above. Shrimp boat, still there. Yeah, all above. Yeah.
And Corey, he ain't tell you he was almost in the 68 Olympics if it weren't for Vietnam.
Wow. Yeah, Donnie, hook us up on the email chain, all right?
Okay, I will. I will. Nkechi, I'm going to need your information, so make sure Pam sends it to me, okay?
Absolutely. Okay.
Good night, everybody.
Great meeting, everybody.